gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hold it, you're not that pretty. Come on, man. I shook up the wall.
I bear witness, there's only one God, Allah, and Muhammad is his final messenger. That's what I said, Larry, on the Bungle fight. Thanking you.
They call me the problem, but you could call me the can man, because anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Dominicans, Mexicans, anybody can get it.
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition on Split Decision. This is episode 90. Pleasure having all my AKHis in the building. Ramadan Kareem to all my brothers and sisters out there. This is our holy month. So to all my Muslim brothers out there, Ramadan Kareem. And inshallah, y'all have a blessed month. With that being stated, there's a lot to talk about today on Split Decision, from Jermell Charlo to Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, Sean Porter, upcoming fights. There's a lot of updates, so we're going to talk about it all. For the moment in time, go ahead and call in if you want to hold your position on the press conference. With that being stated, let's go ahead and get the party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Shout out to all my AKHis that's up this late. So go ahead and pick up the first caller on the line. How you doing, AKHi? Who this is and where you calling from?
This is Joey from South Florida.
Joey,
What's going on, AKHi?
What's going on, man? You up here early, man.
Early.
Oh, yeah, so late for me, but yes, sir. So pleasure having you on, Joey. That's a lot to talk about. First of all, I do want to inform the public that Gervonta Tank Davis, Errol Spence, and Jermell Charlo returning this summer on Showtime, according to the rumors. Now, there was reports that, or sources that said that Errol Spence and Jermell Charlo are going to be on a doubleheader. That turned out to be not true. Apparently, Jermell Charlo is going to have his own card, his own main event on Showtime for Undisputed, possibly. Errol Spence most likely returning against Ugas on July. And then Tank, he obviously fighting Marios Barrios. That should be announcing soon. There's obviously a holdup from what I heard. PBC, I think Al Heyman and Fox didn't come to a mutual agreement to resign. So due to that, there's a lot of fights that's being held. And this is why the PBC cards are haven't been announced yet. So in the upcoming future, we should have a schedule announced when it comes to PBC. With that being stated, let's get straight to it. I want to talk about this last Saturday. Obviously, Jaron Ennis fought, and we know the second hottest prospect or contender, we should say, because they both contenders at this point in time, is Virgil Ortiz. He's up there with Jaron Ennis. Virgil Ortiz, right after he beat Hooker, he came out and said that, I'm not ducking Jaron Ennis. It's nonsense for us to fight each other right now. We got to clear out the old dogs, but that fight will happen in the future. So what's your thoughts on Virgil Ortiz's comments about Jaron Ennis and this fight, maybe soon or later? We truly don't know. What's your take on that?
In my humble opinion, I kind of agree with what he's saying, simply because I think Virgil Ortiz and Jaron Ennis are the future welterweight kings, the same way how Spence and Crawford replace the likes of Thurman or even Pacquiao. I think the same applies to Ennis and Virgil Ortiz. That's why they're not calling out each other. Like, you don't even hear Ennis really talking about Ortiz. They're talking about fighting like the Crawford, Spence, Porter, Like those, even Ugas, I heard Ennis say you would love to fight if given the opportunity. So I see what they're saying because that fight in the future, I think that's going to be the next welterweight super fight. So I think he's seeing in the future like let's take care of the Crawfords and the Spences. So I don't really see an issue in that. He's trying to build that fight up because he sees that as the next potential fight. Plus, neither one of them has a belt, so I think that's a fight that's a little too soon.
Yeah, I mean, the way the business of boxing works nowadays, back in the day, prospects and contenders will fight each other before facing the champ, right? But in today's time, it's all business. It's all about the belts and making and building the fights up. So yeah, I see where you're coming from. You know, I could see this fight reign for like a year or two at least before it takes place. Obviously, I don't see it happening unless it's for a unification. But according to what, yeah, so from what Virgil said, yeah, he sounds like he's not interested anytime soon because from his perspective, just like from my perspective, Jaron Ennis is as much of a threat as possibly a Terence Crawford, who's pound for pound #1 and who has a belt. So you better off going that route because you will have more to earn and more money to make than fighting a Jaron Ennis, who's a contender just like you. So I see where he's coming from, but on the other hand, Jaron Ennis, he seemed not to care who he's gonna fight. He said, "I'll fight anybody." A lot of fighters have turned down offers, so we don't know if Virgil is one of them fighters. Maybe Golden Boy doesn't see the fight fit at the moment in time. But what's your take on stylistically how the fight will play out based on their last performances? Since both fighters pretty much fought a former world champion. Virgil Ortiz fought a hooker who was a former world champion at 140. The same thing with Jaron Ennis. He fought Lipinets, who was a former world champion at 140. So judging based on their last performances, who would you favor if they do fight? And what's your take on their performances in general?
Now, okay, based off of their last performances, you see, I'm going to have to favor Jaron Ennis simply because, in my opinion, I think Sergey Lipinets was a bigger threat. Lipinets, although Maurice Hooker had only been, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, only stopped by the likes of Jose Ramirez, which who's a top fighter at 140. Lipinets is just a more, in my opinion, like a more dangerous threat at 147. I think he was a tough challenge and a big step-up fight. Maurice Hooker, not a lot of people had any faith or thought that Virgil Ortiz would really have any problems with him. And to me, he didn't look nearly as impressive as Jaron Ennis, who seemed to have absolutely no issue at all. Not saying that Virgil Ortiz didn't perform well. He did great. But he took a lot more punishment or damage than expected. Like if you saw at the end of his fight, he had a little redness on his face. So, and you see Jaron Ennis, he looked almost as good as he got in. So I personally think stylistically, I think Jaron Ennis is just not the best matchup for Virgil Ortiz because I think his defense and his movement, Virgil Ortiz problems. This man does not just stay there and take punishment for Virgil Ortiz. Just go at the body with him like Maurice Hooker did. And on top of that, Jaron Ennis, people like to talk about Virgil Ortiz's powers. Jaron Ennis has a 90+% knockout ratio. So let's not even talk about power with these two. So if it has to go into a test of power, you can call that a draw. If you want to give it to Ortiz, go right ahead. But in terms of speed, skill, versatility, and defense, I'm leaning towards Ennis, but we'll see.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points. First of all, based on the opponents, Hooker did get stopped at 140 by Ramirez, but Lipinets, he lost to Mikey Garcia in a unanimous decision. So obviously, Lipinets have never been stopped before, and Jaron Ennis has just been stopping everybody. I think that's pretty much slept on is the fact that he has a lot of power in both hands on top of his height and reach and skill level. His versatility is out of this world. The fact that he could just switch stands effortlessly. I mean, we don't normally see that. Obviously, Terence Crawford made it a norm, but Jaron Ennis is definitely taking that to another level. So in my humble opinion, when I was watching the Jaron Ennis versus Lipinets, what I try to pay attention to is how will Jaron Ennis react once he get hit. because it tells a lot. When Jaron Ennis, I think it was the second round, he got clapped by a clean right hand. He was calm, composed, yeah, cool, calm, and collective. He actually retaliated with his own counter punches, and then he turned Lipinus. That's a great sign from a young upcoming prospect. He did not panic under pressure. That told me right there he's a major threat to anybody, because on the other hand, Virgil Ortiz, I think it was the fourth round against Hooker, he got clapped by a nice right hand, and Virgil started backing up and utilizing his jab. It seemed like he was a little bit buzzed. So Jaron Ennis reacted better to me. Plus, he was, like you pointed out, fought the better opponent. So at the moment in time, I think Jaron Ennis, he's looking like the major threat to the throne, which is the winner of Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford if they do fight. Because at the moment in time, we don't normally see the number one and the number two pound for pound in the same division. Terence Crawford, he's pound for pound number one in my books, and Errol Spence is pound for pound number two. They in the same division in their prime, right? So it's like the welterweight division can't get any deeper right now. You see Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, Sean Porter, Ugas, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Jaron Ennis right now, Virgil Ortiz, and the list goes on and on and on. So it's the division is so deep. This is why the welterweight division is the deepest division in boxing. So in your humble opinion, who is the biggest threat to Terence Crawford and Errol Spence?
You see, when I saw these two fight, I had to ask myself this question. Stylistically, if I put Crawford in the ring with Ortiz, do I see anything that Ortiz can bring that Crawford hasn't been hit by or can't deal with? And a lot of people love to talk about Virgil Ortiz's power, his power. And I'm gonna keep it to you straight. Crawford's not the type of fighter to just get shooken up by a punch and just not know how to respond. This man's not only the best fighter in the world, but he's practically a veteran, and he's fighting bigger fighters as we speak. He's fought Kavaliauskas, he just fought Kell Brook. So in terms of size, that's not really an issue when it comes to Terence Crawford. And I don't see Virgil Ortiz handling the versatility of Terence Crawford. And I don't see him taking on the likes of Errol Spence very, very better either. Even though I think that would be a better matchup in terms of styles, I think Errol Spence has the ability to punish him better than even Terence Crawford would. Now with Jaron Ennis, I think Ennis has a lot more potential. I could see him putting up a decent or a competitive fight with either of these fighters. I could see him giving them a lot of problems. I'm not saying he necessarily beats them, but the skill and the IQ of this kid at that age is dangerous, because this kid's only getting better. He's 23, the same age as Shakur Stevenson, and he's doing this much damage and creating this much buzz. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Me more so than Virgil Ortiz.
Yeah, he definitely a problem.
So
and
I gotta say Ennis.
Right. Yeah, and like I said before, his just how versatile he is as a fighter. He could do it all. You know, he could box, he could bang, he could fight in the inside, he could fight in the outside, and with his height and reach and IQ in there, I mean, it smells trouble for anybody. Like I said, we randomly see pound for pound number 1 and 2 in the same division, and then you have like a Jaron Ennis on the come up. So I think Jaron Ennis is going to make both Terence Crawford and Errol Spence level-headed to fight each other sooner than later, because I'm pretty sure they would prefer to fight each other instead of fighting Jaron Ennis, who's almost as an equal threat to them, beside the experience factor, obviously. But nevertheless, both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, they are familiar with Jaron Ennis. In fact, Errol Spence came out and said not too long ago, he said, the Jaron Ennis fight is going to happen at 154. I don't know about all the tricks he's talking about. I have more dog. So he said that something around the lines, he's going to bite his mouthpiece down and go for the man down. So what's your take on, like I said, that, you know, because if we're looking at the landscape at the welterweight division, we always hear about both sides of the street. Oh, he's on the other side of the street. He's on the other side of the street. However, Jaron Ennis is on the same side of the street as Errol Spence. Virgil Ortiz, you could say he's on the same side of the street as Terence Crawford, because Terence is about to be a free agent. So now Terence is about to have more options than Errol Spence. All along, Errol Spence had more options. But now, out of nowhere, Terence is about to have more options because Sean Porter's on the table. Josh Taylor said if Crawford can't find any opponent, I step up to the plate. You also have Virgil Ortiz, who said, I don't care if I'm ready or not. I take the fight if they offer it to me. That's a third option. Keith Thurman obviously calling him out. So now it seems like Terence Crawford is having more options than an Errol Spence. So what's your take on that? Is that going to play in effect? Because obviously, like I said before, Virgil Ortiz, you could pretty much say he's on the same side as Terence, because Terence could become a free agent by this year and then go to the zone and have a one-off against Virgil Ortiz, right? But Errol Spence, he's on the same side as Jaron Ennis. So who do you see giving Jaron Ennis his first opportunity at greatness?
Well, let me just say this much. I love the fact that you did not mention Manny Pacquiao as an option for Terence Crawford. Let's just cut the crap right now. That fight's never going to happen.
That ain't going to happen, man. Yeah, we know what time it is. You know?
I'm done talking. Yeah, I'm done talking about that fight. 40 million, 60 million, that fight's not happening. So let's just move on from that. But in regards to your question about Jaron Ennis, you see, the thing is, I know Al Heyman would really like to keep that fight in-house between Spence and Ennis, because that could be a future mega fight in the future if that fight were to take place either at 147 or 154. And I don't see Spence passing up that fight. Then again, Crawford, knowing Crawford, I know he'll take that fight if it's given to him. And Ennis says he'll fight anybody, and I think he's that serious. It's a difficult question. It's an easier fight to make with Spence, but I see Crawford more willing to make that fight happen. But if I had to pick, I'm just gonna go with Spence.
All right, well, that's my man said Errol Spence is going to be the first one to give Jaron Ennis his first shot at greatness. But my man, he said appreciate the super chat, my brother. He said Ennis is going to make Spence split the purse 50-50 with Bud. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with that statement? Because that's what I actually kind of agree with it as well, because I just mentioned earlier that Jaron Ennis, the fact that he came to the welterweight division is like a blessing in disguise, because he's going to make Errol Spence level-headed to make the Terence Crawford fight happen. Because now, like I said, you better off fighting Terence for a bigger money fight, a bigger legacy, a bigger reward than a Jaron Ennis, who's almost as an equal threat as Terence Crawford. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with that, because frankly, Errol Spence is currently not in the best position, because as time has passed, his pay-per-views have only been slightly but surely decreasing since his fight with Mikey Garcia. And Ugas is the least popular name that he's fighting at most likely the pay-per-view level. So, and if Crawford is, like you said, to get to the likes of Virgil Ortiz, Sean Porter, Josh Taylor, there's a strong likelihood that he may do better numbers than Errol Spence this year, and that could just play into Spence's favor. And fighting an Ennis, that can also be a problem. So I think he should really hurry up and make this Crawford fight. Stop talking about 7-30 and 80-20 and start negotiating. Why are you talking about splits if you guys haven't even sat at the table yet?
Right. I do agree with that. Per split shouldn't be talked about until negotiations take place. Now, one thing for sure, though, the welterweight division and the super welterweight division is really heating up, because if you look at the landscape, you see Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Jermell Charlo, Jaron Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, and even that guy, man, it's like a 6'7" feet dude. I forgot his name. You know what I'm talking about?
You mean Fedora?
Fedora, yeah. Fedora, he a problem. A lot of people sleeping on him, but his height and reach, and he reminded me of a Paul William. Remember Paul William, he was so tall, but he never really used his range to box. However, he could fight his ass off in the inside. Same thing for Fedora. He could fight his ass off in the inside, and he could also box. So that's going to smell trouble for anybody. I would like to see Fedora against like a step-up fight, a name opponent that we're familiar with. And if he If he could stay composed and do what he usually do, oh man, he, like I said, he's gonna be a major threat, a major player as well. On the other hand, Jaron Ennis, like I said, he almost complete. The only thing, he just needs to relax a little bit and stay focused, because he have so much talent that sometimes he gets carried away. And we saw it against Lipinets. He every now and then he will get hit with a clean shot because he's just so carried away and comfortable doing what he's doing. However, I felt like sometimes he'd be rushing his work. So like I think his during the post fight, that was a perfect assessment. You have to stay more relaxed, which he did that against Lipinets, at least more so than he did in the past. So wouldn't you agree that what's his name again? The guy 154? Fedora, yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I've seen him fight. I'm pretty sure he was on the Spence Garcia card. That kid's impressed me for a while. Never seen a guy at 154 that tall before. I think he's like, I don't know, like 6'8", 6'9" or something. That guy is huge. So he has a long reach, and I've seen him. This man is not afraid to get on the inside and just go toe to toe with you like he did in his last fight and just beat you. And that kid has a lot of power. Don't let his frame fool you. That kid hits hard. So I could see him being a problem. I don't think I think he should step up, like against maybe I'm not sure. Maybe if Danny Garcia moves up, that could be a good fight for him. Even though Danny Garcia's never fought at 154, that's still a named opponent, still a live dog. That could be a future opponent for him. I don't see him taking on the likes of someone like a Charlo or Hurd or Rosario. I think that's too much for him at this point. I think the kid's still young and developing, but I could see him being a problem in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that I do agree with. But yeah, he definitely need to take his time, but he does have a lot of potential, and I like his style. I like his like I said, the fact that he composed in the inside. See, when I first saw him, all of a sudden I was like, hold on, this man, he is tall as Deontay Wilder at 154. You got to be kidding me. And then when I was like, man, if this man can't fight in the inside, this is going to be his kryptonite, because everybody's going to go for the inside work. And then when I saw him fight, I'm like, hold on, he prefers to fight in the inside. That kind of took me by surprise, because usually, like I said, with somebody that tall, you would think he will utilize his height and reach more. But he was, fighting in the inside, and that's why I kind of, he reminds me of Paul William a little bit. So, like I said, he a major threat. I think we need to be on the lookout for him in the future. But I do want to bring up this topic to your attention, which is Eric Morales. He came out and said that Canelo is not the best. He said Crawford and Errol Spence are the best. They the best skillful fighters and have the best skill asset. He also criticized Canelo in the past, saying that Canelo always fights older guys. He said when he fought Kovalev, Kovalev was washed and past his prime. Every time he fights an opponent, it's always the weakest link instead of fighting the best fighters available and pretty much his rivals, the likes of Andrade and Charlo. And he said he would like to see him against Charlo. Now, for the people that on my last video, a lot of people said, oh, Oscar De La Hoya, when he said Crawford was pound for pound number one, he's salty, he this, he that. So is Morales salty? Is Marquez salty? Because Marquez said the same thing. And Canelo threatened Marquez to, he said that he wanted to fight Marquez. Marquez criticized Canelo. He gave him fair criticism. And out of nowhere, Canelo Alvarez, he wanted to fight Marquez. Instead of fighting the guys, he was criticizing him.
But you don't fight Mexicans, Aki. You don't fight Mexicans.
Right. But he fighted a Mexican that started his career at 126, right? I mean, it's you just either way you look at it with Canelo, it's a lose-lose situation, because he cherry picked so hard. His fans having a hard time defending him, right? Now, the narrative out there, old media narrative that is, they always bring up the resume. They like, oh, Canelo has the best resume in boxing. That's why he's pound for pound number one. What I say is, what happened to that resume talk when they put Lomachenko number one when he had 8 fights over Andre Ward and Terence Crawford? Remember that? Remember when Teddy Atlas said based on the eye test, and then Andre Ward and Terence Crawford were looking at him like, you for real? What happened to that resume talk when they erased Lomachenko, lost, and put him on top of Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez? But out of nowhere, as soon as Lomachenko loses, now it's all about resume. And Canelo bypassed Terence Crawford to the #1 slot when Terence was the #1 pound for pound all along, right? So we're going to entertain this resume talk because I really want to talk about it with the Canelo fans, right? Now, for the same people that rate Canelo as #1 due to his resume, it's so hypocritical to not have Sean Porter on your top 10 pound for pound. They don't, the same people
top
that
two,
say,
if we talking about resume.
Yeah, the same people that say Canelo Alvarez is pound for pound #1 because of his resume, they don't even rate Sean Porter. When Sean Porter have arguably the deepest resume in boxing. I mean, from Alexander to Adrian Broner, Kell Brook, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Ugas.
Prime.
You know what I mean? Like all these fighters. I mean, I could go on and on and on. He fought all these fighters, Danny Garcia, and no one in their prime, and nobody have him on their pound for pound list. So, what's your take on all this resume talk? The same people that say Canelo is #1 because of his resume are the same people that don't rate Sean Porter as a pound for pound fighter. And mind you, if Sean Porter was Mexican, I promise you, he probably would have won majority of the close fights he had, like the fight with Keith Thurman and a lot of his close fights. The way he fought, the way he fights Mexican style, he will have won majority of them fights, just like Canelo. Canelo lost to Lara. Canelo arguably lost to Triple G twice. Canelo had a close fight with Trout. These are the prime fighters he fought. And he arguably lost to all three of them. We know he lost to a grandpa version of Floyd Mayweather. So if we're talking about resume, why is Sean Porter not in the conversation? Why the same people that rate Canelo as #1 because of his resume don't rate Sean Porter as a top 10, which is so hypocritical on their end? What's your take on that?
Now, when we talk about resumes, these people got to be very careful what they mean. Because if we're talking about the best resume in boxing, it's not even Canelo Alvarez. Because there's still an active fighter in boxing. Even though he's old, even though he's 42, he's got a way better resume than Canelo ever has or probably even ever will at the rate he's going. So if we're talking about resumes, are you talking about current or overall? Because if we're talking about overall, Pacquiao beats Canelo.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can talk about Pacquiao. Because I don't even see Pacquiao at the pound for pound list anymore if you're talking about resumes. Because Pacquiao beats Canelo's resume 10 times out of 10. We're talking about him fighting the best of the best pound for pound in their prime. But we see Canelo fight an Avni Yildirim, and I see ESPN saying that his win with Yildirim put him over Terence Crawford. And I see Canelo fans saying, he had to fight Yildirim. It was his mandatory. Yet if you see a Terence Crawford fight Kavaliauskas, who's an undefeated top contender, who was also Terence Crawford's mandatory, they'll say, he's fighting a bum. And an Olympian. Terence Crawford just gets protected.
Yeah,
exactly.
And Olympian. And just to bring up, because that's a great point you brought up, it's funny because if Crawford fought an Avni Yildirim, a fighter coming off a loss and 2-year layoff, they will have trashed Terence Crawford. They will have removed him from the pound for pound list just for that cherry pick, right? But Canelo, it's okay. He could do whatever he wants. And they asked the question, who can beat Canelo after he just beat Avni Yildirim? And they try to justify it with the mandatory talk. But the same people that want to claim Canelo fought Avni because that's his mandatory, they the same people that try to justify Canelo ducking Jamal Charlo when Jamal was Canelo mandatory and Canelo gave up the belt. You're a fake champion if you got to give up the belt in order to protect a record that's not even perfect, like Canelo Alvarez did with Jamal Charlo. The man gave up his belt. And we're not even going to talk about him failing a drug test, testing positive for steroids twice against Gennady Golovkin. We're not even going to bring that to the table. We're just sticking to the facts, and that's a fact too, but we're just going to stick to the boxing talk of Canelo Alvarez. They want to justify him being pound for pound #1 because he got the best resume. But like you said, Manny Pacquiao, he just beat a Keith Thurman, not an Ivini Yildirim, a Keith Thurman at 30 years old in his prime. They don't say Manny Pacquiao is number one because of his resume. He's still active, right? You know what I'm saying? Sean Porter, like I said, they don't even rate him.
Do any of the last three opponents that Canelo fought, are any of them on Keith Thurman's level? I would like to hear Canelo fans argue that.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. We all know they from Europe. When they say Canelo is pound for pound number one, they mean Canelo is Europe pound for pound number one because he's on a Europe tour as we speak. Canelo said out of his own mouth, I'm not going to fight any more Mexican fighters as soon as he moved up to David Benavidez division, right? But he fights Chavez and he wanted to fight Marquez. But all of a sudden, when we want to see him fight an undefeated Mexican who can actually fight his ass off, David Benavidez, now he waving the white flag. Oh, I'm not going to fight my people, right? And then when it was, like I said, how can you be the best in the world when you don't even want to fight the best in your division? When he don't want to fight the most dominant races in boxing, the Black American fighters and the Mexican fighters. Charlo and Andrade, he been ducking for the past 7 years to the day. Canelo Alvarez was never number one in any division he campaigned in. At 154, he lost to Lara and Floyd and ducked Andrade and both of the Charlo brothers. He moved up to 160. He avoided Charlo and Andrade yet again. Now at 168, he ducking David Benavidez, and he's on a Europe tour. He had a plan of becoming undisputed at 160. He gave up on the plan when Charlo and Andrade won belts in his division. And then obviously he moved up to 168 to become undisputed now because the division is full of European fighters. But I do want to talk about this because Canelo Alvarez, he mentioned, well, let me go ahead and just dive into the next topic real quick, which is, well, I do want to mention this too, just to make sure we got all of our facts, and you could correct me on this. Wasn't Crawford number one at 135 before he moved up?
Yeah, he was, because he beat the lineal champion.
And nobody wanted to fight him after that. So
no.
after he beat Gamboa, he moved up. Wasn't Crawford number one at 140?
Yeah, because he beat every champion at 140.
Thank you. Wasn't Crawford,
even though they said he was afraid of Victor Postal, and then he beat the crap out of Victor Postal.
And after he beat the crap out of him, he supposedly cherry picked him. And then at 147, who is number one right now?
147, who's number one right now? I say Errol Spence.
And
but that's
didn't
the same
Crawford,
guy Terence Crawford's been calling out.
For how long?
For 2 to 3 years.
Exactly. That's exactly my
point.
He's
stuck at him.
And Crawford, as soon as he moved up to the division, he told Errol Spence, "What's up? You say you the smoke?" He said, "That's my nickname." He said, "I am the smoke," and he wanted to fight Errol Spence right away as soon as he moved up to the division. Do you see Canelo moving up to 168 and wanting to fight David Benavidez right away? Nah, he wanted to fight Rocky Fielding. David Benavidez, they reached out to Canelo Alvarez team twice, and Canelo team turned it down. As soon as Canelo lost his belt as soon as David Benavidez lost his belt on the scale, Canelo was knocking the door on Suleiman, wanting to fight Ivini Yildirim, right? You see Crawford, he wanted to fight Errol Spence right away. Errol Spence, he wanted to save him last because he views Crawford as his most dangerous rival and threat because that's the fight of the decade, right? That's not Crawford's fault. But the point that I'm trying to make is, even without Errol Spence, Crawford fought Jeff Horn, who gave Pacquiao a hell of a fight. I had Pacquiao winning, but I still believe Jeff Horn.
It don't even matter if you think Pacquiao won or lost. Crawford beat Horn on a way easier scale.
Knocked him out.
It don't matter. That's the point.
Yeah,
exactly.
He beat Amir Khan. It dominated him. He didn't lose the first 4 rounds like Canelo
made him
did.
Quit.
Yeah, he didn't lose the first 4 rounds like Canelo did. He made him quit, like you said. And then he obviously beat Mean Machine, but undefeated Benavidez. Everybody told Crawford, "You ducking Benavidez." Crawford fought him and beat him, and even Kell Brook. So if you look at Crawford's resume at 147, if we compare him to an Errol Spence, the only 2 names that he has that's really making him stand out at this moment in time is Sean Porter and Danny Garcia. Arguably, Sean Porter could possibly be Terence Crawford next fight. So they have almost the same resume at 147. So what are we even talking about? Canelo never been number one in any division he campaigned in. He always ducked the best in every division he campaigned in. However, Crawford, on the other hand, he challenged Vasyl Lomachenko. He challenged Errol Spence and any major threat that was viewed as the best in his division. So that's why I rate Terence Crawford as pound for pound number one, hands down. And with that being said, I do want to talk about Shakur Stevenson. I don't know if you noticed or you've seen Shakur Stevenson. ESPN, they put out a list when Herring was fighting Frampton, and they
I saw that.
They did not even rate Shakur Stevenson on the top 10 in his own division at 130. But ironically, they had him ranked on their website. But on national television, when the whole world is watching, they will remove him from the list because their agenda is they don't want nobody to be pressured to fight in Shakur because they know what Shakur is capable of, and they do not want to see a second coming of Floyd Mayweather. But it's ironic to me that ESPN will make a move like that, like they did with Lomachenko when they erased his loss. When Shakur fights for ESPN, you will think they will push Shakur to be number one like they did with Lomachenko. Because remember, like I said before, they had Lomachenko as number one pound for pound with 8 fights before he even fought a Rigondeaux based on the eye test. So as far as the eye test, Shakur Stevenson passes all type of eye tests. I mean, he gets hit less than Floyd Mayweather. He gets hit 13%, which is less than Floyd because Floyd gets hit around 19, 20%. So what's your take on ESPN shockingly dissing Shakur Stevenson by removing him from the top 10 at 130, a division he campaigns at? And they had half of the list. I didn't even know who they were. I don't even know who they were. You know what I mean? So what's your take on that?
I'm not even surprised. I'm not surprised at all, man. People have been pushing aside Shakur Stevenson for a while now. And you know, I'm about to cook these Oscar Valdez fans real quick because y'all want to talk about how Shakur Stevenson should step aside so Herring and Valdez can fight. Because I've been seeing that. They're saying Herring and Valdez should fight next. Shakur Stevenson should wait. Because now in this fight, unification trumps mandatory. Where were you guys when Oscar Valdez fought for Chell and he was the mandatory? So Shakur, as a mandatory for Jamel Herring, he should step aside by Oscar Valdez to fight him and no problem. What's the problem? Why is there a double standard? What's the issue? And on top of the fact of that, you guys always want to bring up Shakur Stevenson's resume, even though the man has 15 fights. Yet Shakur Stevenson has already won a title. Did Oscar Valdez win a title in 15 fights? Correct me if I'm wrong, Aki. Did he win a title in 15 fights?
Absolutely not. And
we want to talk about resume.
Yeah, 21 years old.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was 21, 22 years old, and you see Oscar Valdez at 30. He's 30, about to do what Shakur Stevenson is going to do this year at 23. In 16 fights, Shakur Stevenson is looking to become a champion. Whether it's Herring or not, that's up to him. But Shakur is going to be a champion by this year, mark my words. But most fans aren't going to like it because they want to see Valdez versus Herring because they don't want Shakur. They know what's up. They know what's real. And that's Shakur Stevenson. That's the truth. That's the future pound for pound. I'm willing to put anything on that.
Yeah. Because
that kid's got everything. Valdez know it, and his fans know it.
Yeah, Shakur is almost like a guarantee loss, man. It's like Oscar is just going to be another number on his resume. I don't even look at Oscar as a threat. I mean, I look at Tank as a fight that's going to cause, possibly
that's the fight.
Yeah, present some, problems or challenges for Shakur. A guy even like B-Hop, I think that's going to be a good fight. But even them, I will favor Shakur, because Shakur talent, like I said, when they talk about eye tests, Shakur passes the eye test more than anybody does. Shakur Stevenson, he stepped up before anybody did. If we're talking about step up, he fought Diaz at 126 when he was 20 years old. when Bob and everybody was telling Shakur, nah, it's too early, and Shakur was like, nah, I'm ready right now. I'm ready right now. So, and he displayed why he was ready because he completely watched Diaz. Excuse me. But now all of a sudden, now, they want to make all these type of excuses. And this, it's just shocking to me, though, to see ESPN not put him on the top 10. Like I said, we're not talking about the top 10 pound for pound. We're talking about the top 10 in his own division. When he's arguably number one in his own division right now, based on the eye test, right? So with Shakur Stevenson, at the end of the day, it's so hypocritical for old media to praise Lomachenko and put him. They say he was one of the greats. They put him as number one pound for pound.
Greater than Mayweather.
Greater than Mayweather. Eight and one loss. He wasn't even undefeated. 8 fights and 1 loss. And Shakur, on the other hand, he's not even a top 10 in his own division. Absolutely hypocritical on their end. But
and I don't even think you noticed this real quick, Aki. Oscar Valdez is already on the top 10 ESPN pound for pound list from what I saw. And yet Shakur Stevenson, if he were to fight Jamel Herring in June or September and beat him, I guarantee you won't see it. Guarantee it. You won't see him on that pound for pound list for doing the exact same thing Valdez did.
Right.
Question is why?
Because they know his potential. They do not want to see another Floyd Mayweather take over the sport. Like I said before, Shakur Stevenson, when I say based on the eye test, what I mean by that, when you see Floyd Mayweather, before he proved himself, you knew he was special. When you saw Muhammad Ali, you knew he was special. When you see a lot of these fighters like Devin, Rigondeaux, Gamboa, we knew they were special before they won a title, because just based on the eye test. And Shakur Stevenson, like I said, he gets hit less than Pretty Boy Mayweather and even Money Mayweather. Shakur gets hit 13%. Now, if he could keep it up is one thing, but the brother is sharp. The brother get hit 4% with jabs. I mean, the easiest punch you could land is the jab. So if you can't land the jab on Shakur, what the hell are you going to land? Shakur gets hit 4% with jabs. The easiest punch you could land on your opponent, Shakur gets hit 4% with that punch. This is why he one of the most feared fighters, if not the most feared, him and Devin. So, yeah, I mean, old media know what time it is, and they just want to stop another Floyd Mayweather from becoming the face of the sport. But what's your take on Max Kellerman? He came out and said the man to beat Canelo Alvarez, because obviously, the zone, they were asking who could beat Canelo, right after he beat Avini, as if he beat Godzilla or something. Max Kellerman said the man to beat Canelo, who has the best chance of doing so, is Andre. Now, first of all, before I'll let you get your thoughts on that. Now, it's funny because when they say the man who could beat Canelo, as if this man haven't been beaten on more than one occasion by Lara and Floyd Mayweather. All of a sudden now it's like a mystery who could beat Canelo, as if he's Floyd Mayweather. When he was Floyd Mayweather's easiest fight. When Floyd was grandpa at 36 years old. And ever since then, he avoided that American-style fighter. That's why he's been avoiding Andre and Charlo to this day. So what's your take on Max Kellerman saying the man to beat Canelo is Andre?
I mean, he knows what's up. And I'm not saying there's no way Canelo can beat Andre. I'm not saying that. But if Canelo won't fight him at 154, won't fight him at 160, and probably when Andre moves up to 168, he probably won't fight him then either. Then what is it? It's not about what I see or about what Max sees or what you see, Aki. It's about what Canelo sees. Because if Canelo won't fight him, what does that tell you? You see, they'll say everybody about Floyd Mayweather, who he faced and everything, but he always faced those guys you mentioned. But Canelo, he won't even face Charlo. He won't even face Andre. He won't face these guys. And people want to say, oh, Triple G this, Triple G that. Triple G was like Andre brought this up in his interview. Triple G was 36. Canelo could have fought him even younger than that. He vacated his title to fight a Liam Smith. Like you mentioned, he would fight the Smith brothers before he fights the Charlo. and with Andre, it's even worse. Because that was the only fight Canelo needed to face. at 160 to become undisputed. That was it. He beat everybody else. That was all he needed to prove he was the number one guy, and he would have had my respect. I would have given it to Canelo. I said, bro, you got it. But he did everything but that. This man made all these excuses that said, oh, Andre's boring. That fight's not going to be exciting. You guys are going to blame me. All that crap. Ryan Garcia's pulling the same thing with Devin Haney. I see where he gets it from. So, yeah, no, I'm not surprised. Max knows this.
Right. And you know that boring part that you brought up. Canelo says Andrade is boring, but then he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders, though. Billy Joe Saunders move around the ring more than Andrade does. So how come Billy Joe Saunders is not boring, but Andrade is boring? Who the hell Billy Joe Saunders beat at 168? Nobody. All I know Billy Joe Saunders for is failing a drug test and taking steroids when he was supposed to fight Andrade. That's what I know Billy Joe Saunders for. He took steroids and failed for steroids when he was supposed to fight Andrade. And then a year later, when Andrade still wanted to fight Billy Joe Saunders turned down the fight. Why? Because he only gonna fight Andrade if he's on steroids. And his last 2 to 3 performances, he looked like absolute crap. And now Canelo wants to fight him. The same guy, he has the same style and moves around even more than Andrade does. But Canelo has the audacity to say Andrade is boring and he runs. But he was running when he fought a 36-37 Gennady Golovkin in the first fight. He was moving around the ring like a marathon. Like it was a marathon or something. And he got the audacity to tell another man how to fight. Oh, yeah, don't move around. Don't move your head, bro. If you move your head, I'm not going to fight you. This is what Canelo is pretty much saying. Canelo is pretty much saying, look, man, if this fight is not on easy mode, I'm not going to take it. Oh, Andre, he's going to
Whichever one of y'all.
Yeah.
Whichever one of y'all fights similar to Mayweather, scratch that off the list. That ain't happening.
And that's exactly my point. So it's so like I said, Canelo out here telling fighters, you know, I ain't taking no hard mode fight. It got to be an easy mode. Yeah, you can't move. You got to tie your legs up. You got to put one hand behind your back. Like, what are you talking about? Why are you telling another man how to fight if you think you're the best in the world? But again, he's the cherry picking king. He's pound for pound number one when it comes to cherry picking. That's what Canelo Alvarez is. But it's crazy to me because, like I said, DAZN, they asked the question, who can beat Canelo? Your own fighter could beat Canelo, Andre, who's on DAZN. But they pretend as Andre doesn't even exist, which is mind-blowing to me because, like I said, Max Kellerman, he interviews Canelo Alvarez, and he tells Canelo Alvarez to his face, yeah, you fight the best, this and that and the third. And then he got the audacity to say, yeah, Andrade, he got the best chance of beating Canelo. Charlo, he got a good chance of beating Canelo. I want to see that fight. This is what Max Kellerman said. Well, how about you ask Max Kellerman about that?
Max is weird.
Yeah, how about you ask Canelo Alvarez about that? If Max Kellerman truly feels like that, why don't you think he will? Why wouldn't he ask Canelo Alvarez? Why wouldn't you fight these brothers? You see, Floyd Mayweather made a living off beating Mexicans. Why don't you make a living off beating black fighters? It's payback time. Why doesn't Max Kellerman ask Canelo Alvarez, why don't you fight Andre and Charlo? Since these are the fights he wants to see. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know, man. I feel as if people who just want to tiptoe around Canelo as if not only is he the president of the WBC, but he even got connections on ESPN. The weird thing about Max is that Max is a little more outspoken for me because at the same time recently he came out and said that he still thinks that Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. Like he said that. I'm pretty sure he said that when talking about Crawford-Pacquiao fight. He said that's the one fight where he doesn't see Pacquiao really doing anything and he sees him getting knocked out. But when it comes to Canelo like being up and personal, I don't know. Max just doesn't keep the same energy. So I don't know what's going on. You'll say Andre and Charlo and Crawford, but when Canelo's there, it's a whole different energy.
Yeah, I think he was just intimidated. And just the same, I mean, even Mike was intimidated. I mean, I was extremely shocked to see Mike not bring Charlo and Andrade, knowing that he did the same thing with T.O. and Ryan. He brought Javante and Devin, right? So I was expecting him to do the same to Mr. Canelo Alvarez, right? But out of nowhere, like, I don't know, I just felt like Mike was like intimidated in a way almost by Canelo Alvarez. And I just think he doesn't want to receive the backlash. That's my humble opinion when it comes to Mike, because he knows what comes with it. And as soon as, obviously Canelo left the room, you see Mike said he want to see Canelo fight Charlo. He needs to stop fighting guys like Avini, who are nobodies. That guy's soft. He needs to fight Benavidez and Charlo. And I was like, well, I wish you said it in front of, I wish you told Canelo that to his face. Because if Mike won't do it, who the hell gonna do it? Because in the old days, obviously Muhammad Ali, he had his I think it was named Howard Stewart. I think I butchered his name, but I think it's Howard. Muhammad Ali had his Howard. Floyd Mayweather had his Brian Kinney. They always ask Floyd Mayweather the tough questions. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they always ask these brothers the tough questions. No issue. No issue at all. And then when it comes to Canelo Alvarez, they don't even have the courage to ask him about a legit fight that the fans want to see. Andrade and Charlo. They rather, settle with Avini instead. So it's just mind-blowing to me sometimes how they behave around Canelo Alvarez as he not just the president of the WBC, but the president of America or something. But I had someone just said, Canelo Alvarez beats your favorite fighters. Canelo, he the best in the world. But Canelo won't Canelo won't even fight our favorite fighters. What are you even talking about? Look, I'm a Canelo fan at the end of the day. I want to see Canelo versus Charlo, Canelo versus Andrade, Canelo versus Benavidez. I want to see everybody fight each other. But how you gonna say Canelo? You just hate Canelo because he beat your favorite fighters when he won't even fight anybody's favorite fighter. That's the problem. That's the criticism, is that he won't fight anybody. It ain't just by me. It's co-signed by legendary fighters such as Chavez, Barrera Morales, Hopkins, Oscar De La Hoya. And the list goes on and on and on. So, yeah. With that being said, you also any last thoughts on that?
I mean, like you saying that. Look, I remember I was told by a Canelo fan, I'm like, yeah, Canelo's gonna beat Andrade, Charlo, Benavidez, all those guys. I'm like, I don't care if he beats all of them. I want to see it. You keep telling me how good Canelo is. Tell him to prove it to me. Canelo's not proving anything when he's beating an Avni Yildirim. Canelo's not proving anything when he's beating a Sergey Kovalev. Canelo's not proving anything beating these B-level fighters and being called the pound-for-pound #1 fighter. If Canelo's not being avoided, then he should be taking everybody on. Nobody's avoiding Canelo. Everybody wants to fight him. The question is, how close are you to looking like Floyd? I don't want to fight you if you fight like Floyd. That's a problem for me. You saw what happened in that fight. That's never gonna happen again.
And that's what he told his
trainer. You gotta fight like that. Yeah.
He told
you gotta stand straight in the ring with me. You gotta have no footwork, no upper body movement. You gotta basically stay still with me. Yildirim, you did great. You made Canelo look like an unstoppable fighter.
And that's what I'm saying. At the end of the day,
great sparring partner.
Yeah, they, like I said before, they keep saying Canelo. They have more cojones than Canelo, but the bad news, they not the ones that's gonna get in the ring. They have more confidence. Canelo fans have more confidence than Canelo has in himself. They want to say Canelo beat our favorite fighters when he won't fight anybody's favorite fighter. Floyd Mayweather actually beat y'all favorite fighters. That's how he became Money Mayweather. He became TBE because he fought the best and beat the best and maintained his undefeated record. Canelo, he don't even have an undefeated record and he won't fight the best. But he want to claim he the best. You can't have it both ways. It's like, imagine this. A Super Bowl is between the final teams, right? It's like the final teams that made it to the top. They play against each other for the Super Bowl, the NBA for the ring, so on and so forth. Canelo is the type of team player that's going to go to the finals wanting to go against the fighter against a team that didn't even make it to the to any type of. They didn't even make it to the finals. That's what Canelo does all the time. He fights the weakest link every single time. But that's we're gonna dive into more topics. But is there like I said before, Canelo? I just want to mention this one more time. Appreciate the super chat, my brother, my man, Pup, Doggy Pup. Appreciate the super chat. So, like I said, at the end of the day, Canelo, he will fight the whole Smith family, but he won't fight none of the Charlo brothers. But he will fight the Smith family in Texas instead of the Charlo brothers that's from Texas. So, with that being said, before I dive into the next topic, do you have a topic in mind?
Oh yeah, I want to talk about the Charlo since we're talking about both of them, Jamal and Jamel.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk.
Yeah, I want to be. Yeah, you see, the thing is, I'm gonna be real with you, man. See, when it comes to Jamel Charlo, that's a line. That man just beat 2 back-to-back champions. He just got his belt back from Tony Harrison by knockout, and then he just fought former unified champion Rosario by knockout in a pay-per-view fight. It looked spectacular in both of them. And now here he is now, potentially fighting the undefeated champion Brian Castano, who just beat the hell out of Patrick Teixeira. That's who he's about to fight and become an undisputed champion at 154. And we haven't had one of those in a long ass time. I think since Winky Wright. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's a line. He lives up to his name. And then you got Jamal Charlo. Not the same mentality. I saw that interview that he had with I don't know the guy's name, but I saw that interview.
Brian Custer.
And will I say I have never seen so many contradictions in one interview. This man straight up said, "Yeah, I'll fight Benavidez," but then he'll say, "I'll fight Andre first." And he was asked, "What's going on with you and Andre?" And he brought up his brother. He brought up what happened between Andre and his brother and why he's got issues with Andre. I'm like, why are you bringing up your brother when it's between you two? Your brother is not fighting for you. Your brother has a reason not to like Andre. This is business. I heard Andre's claiming that he sent you, they brought up the fact that Eddie Hearn came to your team and talked about it. And the thing is, what I would have preferred is if Jamal Charlo straight up said that's a lie. I don't know where that happened, but he sounded like he wasn't even sure. He's like, look, I have not gotten to talk to Eddie Hearn in a while, but I don't know about my team, if that's more or less what he said. So I'm like, you don't even know what's going on? Like you can't even say with 100% certainty that's a lie. That doesn't look good. Jamal Charlo's been looking real bad. He ain't looking like a lion. He's looking more like a kitten to me. Because he won't fight Andre in his weight class, which he claims he's trying to clean out in, and he won't fight Benavidez in 168, who he's been calling out for over a year. But you got your younger brother here, or twin brother, I should say. It's the quote-unquote small Charlo. People saying, "Oh, fight Benavidez," and he's like, "I'll fight anybody." He said, "I'm not Jamal," from what I heard.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man. His own brother done let go. But before I get my take on that, let me read the super chat real quick. I cover MMA / want to join new media. Send you an email, pimp. I appreciate it, my brother. Like I said, at the end of the day, new media narrative is the whole absolute truth, and AKHi always put it together like puzzle. But hit me up on Instagram. That's the quickest way I will get back with you. But I will definitely check my email because I have multiple emails, so I don't know which one you hit me up with. So I'll definitely check it out and I'll be in touch with you. I appreciate the super chat, my brother. With that being said, now first of all, it's bad when your own brother, who has your back every single time, it's like he let you go. It's like man, you know what? Dismiss me with this. I will fight anybody. I don't know about my brother. If he did say that, that's a big statement because, like I said before, I watched that same interview talking about, and I'm a big Charlo fan, but at the end of the day, I'm going to tell her how it is. I'm going to tell the truth. And I think social media is not made for Jamal Charlo. I think this is a time where Jamal Charlo, especially during interviews, he will get dissect too much because let me just talk about certain things that I peeped during the interview, he will say, yeah, I will fight Andrade before I fight Benavidez. But then he says Andrade is boring. And then when Brian Custer brought up the $7 million, he says it's not enough money. But in that same interview, he said when it came about Benavidez, he was like, look, I never duck anybody. I don't even know how much I make. I just fight. I'll Heyman give me a fight and I'll just fight. So if you don't know how much you make, then why are you saying the money's not enough when it comes to Andrade? I mean, it was just so much contradictions on his end. Because like I said, he will say Andrade is born. He will say, I'll fight Andrade first before Benavidez. But the problem is, he said he's not going to fight Andrade anytime soon because he's boring. So I don't know which one is it when it comes to Charlo. So Jamal Charlo really has to make up his mind because both fights are dangerous. Andrade is a hell of a threat to anybody. Arguably, he the best at 160 if everybody fight each other. Benavidez is the boogeyman, the best 168-pounder, but nobody's willing to fight him. So Charlo, he got a tough pick. That's, you know, he got to pick and choose between Andrade and Benavidez. However, I still want to focus on the Benavidez because this is the topic of conversation at the moment in time. Charlo said, I will break Benavidez's neck. Now, there's a lot of conversation of why is the pressure on Jamal Charlo to move up in weight and fight David Benavidez? I'll tell you why. Because he said he was going to snap his neck. When you make a statement like that, you have to back it up. Like I said before, I can't tell you, like, let's say if we go to the same school and I tell you, man, I'm going to snap your neck. I'm going to beat your ass. Wait till we get out of school. And then as soon as we get out of school, I'll tell you, you know what? Nah, let's fight a year from now, brother. Let's fight, you know what I mean? Let's go to college and then fight there. Like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you put yourself in this position.
No, you punked out.
Yeah, you put yourself, you can't backpedal once you put yourself in this position. Teofimo did the same thing with Devin. You know, he started talking all this trash. He said he's going to knock him out. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And then all of a sudden, he don't want to fight him. So Charlo, he still have to September to make things right. I think the pressure will pile up on him for him to fight David Benavidez. I could be wrong because the way he was talking about David Benavidez, he was too concerned about the weight. He kept talking about the weight. He kept saying, what is there for me? There's no belt. Again, like I said before, like Jose Benavidez said, if Charlo fights David Benavidez, why are we making the titles mean something when they don't? It's all about the best versus the best. It's not about the belts. You see the WBC make up shit. Excuse me, they make up titles. They make up the WBC franchise witness protection. Belts don't mean anything at the end of the day. What means something is the best versus the best. And that's why Jose Benavidez said if David Benavidez and Charlo fight each other, it will be mandatory by the people for Canelo to fight the winner. You don't got to be Canelo mandatory. Even then, David Benavidez just fought for Canelo Alvarez eliminator for the mandatory position. So they are there. If Charlo does move up a weight and fight David Benavidez, I'm pretty sure they could make it for a mandatory or an interim title. It's possible. But why you even want to pay sectioning fees? I don't even get it. Like, why would you even want to pay sectioning fees when you know how the WBC operate? You better off fighting David Benavidez and being ranked number 1 on the IBF, who's actually going to force the mandatory. Why you want to revisit the WBC where Canelo could become franchise again and avoid his mandatory? Because he will fight an Avini if Avini is his mandatory, but he won't fight a legit mandatory like a David Benavidez or Charlo. So why are you giving weight to the belts? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, Charlo, we're not asking anything from him. We're just saying you got to live up to your word, because Charlo said, I'm going to break his neck, and he called out David Benavidez a year ago. Now, Charlo said that obviously he waiting for the 154-pound class to move up in weight, But I think he needs to pay attention to the bigger picture. I think that David Benavidez is the bigger picture. Canelo, the bigger picture, you know. And I won't be surprised if Andrade and Charlo move up to 168. Canelo could move back to 160. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no guarantee you're gonna get the Canelo fight. So that's why you gotta pay. You gotta make a way for your own legacy. You can't wait on Canelo to do the right thing and behave like a champion and actually grow some cojones. No, you gotta behave like a lion and hop into the lion's den come September. Charlo has to live up to his own words because, like I said, there's a lot of people that have been saying, why he got to move up and weight. Why Canelo doesn't fight Benavidez? We already know Canelo ducking Benavidez because he just fought for Benavidez belt. That's not the topic of conversation right now. The topic of conversation is Charlo versus Benavidez, and it's up to Charlo to make the right move because, like I said before, Canelo, he could fight a Billy Joe Saunders. He could fight a Caleb Plant. They are willing to fight him because at the end of the day, he's the money guy. Charlo, you don't have too many options, my brother. It's only Andrade and Benavidez, the two boogeymen that's willing to fight you, because Gennady Golovkin ain't gonna do it, Munguia ain't gonna do it, Canelo ain't gonna do it. So, he has to make the right move and fight him. Hold on. I think, man, my camera's just. Give me a second, my brother.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I will be right back. Yeah, just stay on the line. My camera just died on me, so not died on me. I don't know, something went wrong. So I'm gonna fix it in just a few.
I got you.
Yeah. Hello, Joey.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, we back. Yeah, man, I just wish the camera didn't cut off while I was talking. But hold on, let me read the super chat real quick.
All right.
My man said, I just watched the Jaron fight. Jaron never got hit with the big shot with Lipinets. He turned his head with the shot to avoid power. He's too good. Watch it again. Yeah, he possibly, turned his head, but I don't know, man. I think he received some impact. But I get what you're saying. He probably didn't take it flush, but at some point, I'm pretty sure he took a few punches flush. So, like I said, it's good for him to be able to take a punch and roll with it as well. That's the art of boxing. But yeah, man. So like I was saying again with Charlo, at the end of the day, he just got to make the right move. There is no justifying him not fighting David Benavidez. I'm not gonna say next. He could have a tuna fight, but he does have to fight him come September, because when he was asked on Brian Custer interview, are you gonna fight David Benavidez come September or something around the line? He said, yeah, I'm going to knock him out. 4, 5, 6 rounds, no more. I mean, he had me hyped. I'm talking about, like, man, I was ready to pay for the pay-per-view at that moment in time. And then, like I said, when I watched the full interview, I'm just shocked with, just contradictions. Like he will say, yeah, I'm going to fight him. But then he will say, why I got to fight him? And because you don't have options. That's why. That's why you got to fight him. I mean, unless you're gonna fight Canelo, because he kept saying, yeah, why tamper with Canelo? Why tamper with that and fight and risk my life with David Benavidez? He's a kid. He a nobody. So if he a kid and a nobody, you don't gotta risk your life. You know what I mean? Like it's his statements. He hyped up David Benavidez.
It should be easy.
Yeah, he hyped up. He said he gonna risk his life in there with him.
First, he put down David Benavidez, saying he's a kid. Now he's hyping him up, saying he's risking his life. Which one is it? It's contradiction after contradiction. And the thing about David Benavidez, Jamal Charlo, is that he's saying like, David Benavidez don't got a belt. Why should I fight him if I don't got anything to get offer out of it? In that case, your next fight better be a champion. By the way you talk. If you're not going to move up to 168, then I better hear Andre as an upcoming opponent. If you don't have a lot of options, like you said, you don't got a lot. You got Benavidez, you got Andre, and the list gets short from there. Because Canelo not going to fight you in this position. And frankly, Canelo's looking like Superman. This man has no this man gets no issue for no backlash for the stuff he gets. You don't fight. I'm seeing Charlo I'm seeing his brother, Jamal Charlo. I went into his Instagram and saw he get backlash for Jamal Charlo not fighting Benavidez. That's how much backlash he's already getting. I'm already seeing a bunch of people saying fight Benavidez, and you got people saying wrong brother. Dang. He hasn't even fought them. It's not even September yet, and he's already being called a duck. But Canelo, you say that to Canelo, they will give you a list. They will give you a book about why Canelo isn't ducking, why Canelo, why he didn't fight Andre, he didn't fight Charlo, why he don't fight. They'll give you the whole duck book.
Yeah, the duck book.
And they don't even know it. They think, yeah. But yeah, with Charlo, no, you're right. If I say Charlo is avoiding Benavidez, they'll totally agree with me. They'll be making jokes. But if I say Canelo, I'm a hater. I don't like Mexican fighters. All this other crap. Even though I said I want to see Canelo face Benavidez, but I don't like Mexican fighters. Apparently, is it Mexican fighters I don't like, or is it your favorite fighter who's cherry picking? You got to pick one. You can't say I don't like Mexicans, but I'm talking about Benavidez. So which one is it? Is it Mexicans or Canelo?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Yeah. That's what they do. That's what they do to me as well. But that's why the truth hurt, and they just can't accept the truth. You can either accept the truth and let it set you free, or try to deny the truth and let it destroy your ego in the process. But just the fact that's why Jamel turned his back on Jamal, and made that statement you brought up, because he just started receiving the backlash himself. And he's like, damn, what I got to do with my own brother? Because like you said, one thing for sure about Jamel, he in a very deep division, and he fought everybody. Like he got robbed. He had to fight his way back through backlash, hate, and he still did his thing. I mean, he about to become undisputed. So, like I said, this is why he made that type of statement. So if your own brother gonna make that type of statement, you can't be mad for people telling the truth and telling you how it is. So Jamal has to do what's right, because the pressure is piling up, and Canelo has his hope protection. He got his the franchise protection plan from old media and the fans. But you, on the other hand, you're on the coincidental list. Shit, you damn if you do, damn if you don't. Canelo, do or don't, he will be praised. Charlo, on the other hand, you do or you don't, you will still get criticized. So you better do the right thing, to say the least, to save some backlash. Because like I said, I mean, I've been seeing ducks everywhere when it comes to Jamal Charlo, on his live, everywhere. So I know he sees the backlash. I know he sees this as a big fight, but he also sees it as a big risk as well. You brought up the Andre fight early on. You said, Charlo kept saying Andre, he turned on a fight with my brother 7 years ago. But let's all be honest, man. That was a $300,000 offer. I mean, he probably should have took it. I give credit for Jamel for wanting to fight Andre for 300, but he had a Rocky, I think it was Jay-Z. He was still signed with Jay-Z, and they had some issues at the time. They had a plan for him, and apparently that wasn't the right way to go because they didn't know much about boxing. I think it was Rock Nation, if I'm not mistaken. But the point here is,
Yeah.
why are we talking about something that happened 7 years ago for 300,000? 300,000 when Andre was a champion, and Charlo just turned down 7 million to fight Andre for a unification at 160. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to talk. If Charlo want to talk about something that makes sense, Andre fight makes sense right now. And Andre said, listen, if Charlo's complaining about the money, it's okay. He said, listen, we could negotiate. We could negotiate. I'm pretty sure we could come up with the right price. We could come up with like maybe possibly 10. I'm just saying. He said we could negotiate. It's part of negotiation. 7 million was the start off price to fight. You know what I'm saying? And Charlo did not deny it. He said something around the lines. He said, listen, I'm worth more. I make that on the regular. And then he said it's a cap. So it's like he didn't say it was a cap right away. He said it's not enough money. But again, Andre said, listen, we can negotiate. So at the moment in time, Charlo is in a very tough position because, like you pointed out, if his next fight is not for a world title, then everything he said on the Brian Custer interview makes no sense at all. Because he said, I'd rather unify. I'd rather, I just got comfortable at 160. So your next fight has to be a unification. Now, there's a Gennady Golovkin. I'm pretty sure, Gennady Golovkin turned down a 2-fight deal. There's Andre, but there's somebody else as well. I think whoever is the third person, I don't even know who it is. I got to check, but he's possibly most likely the weakest link. So he could possibly secure that fight. But from what I heard, it's not even the WBA super champion. It's someone else. Who fights for PBC, if I'm not mistaken. I think he knocked out Crooklyn his last fight. So this is who he's fighting next.
Yeah, I think his name is Ryoto Murata or something like that. He got elevated when Canelo left 160. He got elevated.
Okay. See, that's what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, a meaningful fight this year will cause a lot of buzz because we don't have too many meaningful fights. We have fights coming up, but none of these fights are truly meaningful, like a 50-50 fight. None of these fights are really 50-50 fight. If Charlo fights Benavidez, that's a truly 50-50 fight. Even Jose Benavidez told me on split decision that he thinks the fight is 50-50. He said, we willing to take on the risk. He said he truly believes Charlo can beat Canelo Alvarez. But at the end of the day, they're willing to fight Charlo because they want to make legacy. They want to make history. And it's not about being undefeated. It's all about fighting the best. Muhammad Ali is the greatest, and he got multiple losses on his record. So it's not about a loss does not define your career. It's how you bounce back from a loss. And like I said, they shouldn't put too much weight behind being undefeated because being undefeated means nothing if you don't have the great fights to back it up, like the Ali Fraziers of the world, Ali versus Foreman. Those type of fights that made Muhammad Ali the greatest. So with that being said, any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's just like the thing about Charlo is like I really want this kid to really just be a man of his word and stay true to what he says. Be a lion, like he makes himself be like, I'll fight anybody, I'll do this, I'll do that, I don't care, I'll take on anybody. But then you say stuff that just makes you look the wrong way, and you can't say like, oh, I try. You can't make an excuse. Let's say if your next fight isn't a champion, you can't say, I was trying to get a fight with Triple G, but he don't want to fight me. The fans been knowing that, but there's a champion who wants to fight you, who's been calling you out in your division, and his name is Demetrius Andre. He's been trying to make a fight for you for years, but that fight hasn't been able to be made. So don't say that you can't get a fight at 160 that's champion level, especially when you know about Demetrius Andre. And if you don't want to fight at 160, then live up to your word and fight at 160 and fight at Benavidez. But don't say that, oh, he's got to fight at a catchweight. Don't say, oh, that fight isn't going to happen this year. That give it a year or two so I can get acclimated to 160 and then 168. Don't make excuses and then act talking big like that. Because now you just look like you punked out. You look like you punked out against Benavidez, and you're looking like you've been punked out against Andre. You're not looking good, especially because you don't got that protection. Canelo's got all the protection in the world. Canelo can duck anyone he likes and fight from and still be called the greatest Mexican fighter, which is ridiculous, but that's just how it is. You're not Canelo, so don't act like it. Because you act like Canelo. That's the funny part. Charlo. But people, we're literally saying Canelo needs to fight Andre and Benavidez, and people will make excuses. But you say Charlo, the same exact fighters, they're going to say, yeah, he's ducking them. It's the same exact situation, but two different reactions. But people say double standards in boxing don't exist. And Charlo, you got to recognize that because you're not Canelo Alvarez. So don't move around like him, otherwise you're going to get the worst of it.
Yeah, Canelo got the complexion for the protection to get the, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, he good either way. But Charlo, like you said, perception is everything. And, if you ain't like, man, we talking about boogeymans like Shakur and Devin, and they still get criticized and they really the boogeyman, you know what I mean? And imagine Charlo not wanting to fight Andrade or Benavidez. Yeah, there's no justifying that. I mean, like I said, if he didn't want to fight David Benavidez until a year or two from now, it's okay. It's okay. But why you say you're gonna break his neck though? You know what I'm saying? Why when you make a comment like that, you can't back down no more because that's backpedaling all the way. So I think Charlo, like I said, there's no backing away from the David Benavidez fight at this point. We all know Canelo is in the same division as David Benavidez. They don't criticize him because he got the complexion for the protection. But Charlo, on the other hand, I don't care if he's 3 divisions below David Benavidez. After what you said, you ducking him. That's how they're going to view it. And like I said before, 160 to 168, even though it's 8 pounds, Charlo said he got a big frame. According to him, he told Brian Custer, listen, I got a big frame at 160. He said he's going to fill into 168 just fine. So what's the issue? What's the big problem? So like I said, I'm very interesting to see I can't wait to see his next fight and the lead up to the fight during the press conferences, because mark my word, they're going to hit Charlo with David Benavidez questions all day, every day. All the questions will be about David Benavidez, nothing more, nothing less, not his opponent. So I can't wait to see Charlo fuss all these reporters out, because they're going to continue asking the tough questions. Unlike Canelo, they're not going to shy away from asking the tough questions, regardless of how Charlo reacts. But I got some news for you, man. I got some news for you. Tyson Fury said by this Tuesday, which is today, if the fight doesn't get made, then he's walking out of the fight. He said he's walking out. So we shall see. Now, what's your take on that? He said if it's not official by today, which if we don't hear nothing official today, according to Tyson Fury, he's walking out. Do you take his word for it?
I mean, the thing is with Tyson Fury, it's been a long layoff, and this is his most dangerous fight, other than Deontay Wilder. So the way he's looking at it, like I'm taking on a long layoff to fight AJ, even though it's the biggest fight of my career. I don't want to be at such an overwhelming disadvantage, and I don't want to keep being on this long layoff. I need to stay active, but at the same time, like even though he says that, I think that's I also think that's a bluff, because I'm like, he's probably just trying to push Eddie Hearn and everybody else working on this fight to hurry up, so they can get this fight off, so they can make those hundreds of millions of dollars they've been promised. Because at the same time this week, I heard Tyson Fury on his Instagram saying, "Good news. They got offers from Saudi Arabia, America." He even mentioned England, which took me by surprise. I was surprised about that one, and other countries too. So apparently can't. And also, AJ pointed out good news on his Instagram as well. So I guess we'll find out. But from what it looks from that point of view, the fact that both Fury and AJ said that, it's looking like things are moving well.
Right, right. Well, the only thing that's not a good look is that Eddie Hearn said, "I have who obviously Eddie Hearn. He been telling us that the fight is going to get made for the past 6 months. He been
So
saying for
he's
the past
saying
6
that.
months, for the next in the upcoming 2 weeks, the fight is going to be announced. It's going to be official. That's what he been saying for the past 6 months, right? And lately, he came out and said that I'm the only one working on getting this fight done. Frank Warren and Bob Arum apparently are not hands-on. So, what's your take on that comment, claiming that he's the only one that's being hands-on on making the fight when you have 3 promoters involved? You have Bob Arum and Frank Warren. So he said that he's doing everything on his end, but Bob and Frank Warren, they not, which kind of like raises the question of, oh, hold on, why Bob and Frank is not doing, or doing everything they could to make this fight come to fruition. What's your take on that?
I mean, that does look bad on them, but it also looks bad on Eddie Hearn, because I'm like, if you're the only one working on this fight, basically saying that this fight is difficult to make and that it doesn't sound like it's ready. But you keep saying in a week or two it's going to be ready. If you keep saying that and yet here you're not, then what's going on? Like, obviously you can't tell us what's going on behind the scenes, but then you're going to say, like, the fight's about to be made, get ready, be excited, and then say, I'm the only one working. That's like a warning. It's like a shot. Like what is he trying to say? Is he saying this fight is on the verge of not happening when he just said that this fight's going to be announced? Like, so which one is it? You can't have both. It's either it's happening or it's not. So that's not a good look.
I think the arbitration might be the reason why Bob and Frank are not as hands-on as Eddie, because see, Eddie, he's only worried about his side, which is Anthony Joshua. He don't got nothing to worry about Anthony Joshua, because the WBO, as far as the mandatory Usyk, they got him in a title eliminator for the mandatory interim title, I believe, right? So on the other hand, they have Tyson Fury, which is Bob and Frank, the 2 promoters. They have this arbitration case, and they do not know how it's going to play out until May. Now, according to Bob, he said, that if I'm taking Bob's words for, he said that Deontay Wilder can't stop the fight completely. He said that there will be heavy damages, though. But as far as stopping the Anthony Joshua fight, that's not the case. Frank Warren said otherwise. Frank Warren said the arbitration case could stop the Anthony Joshua fight completely. So maybe Bob and Frank Warren, they not as hands-on with the fight as Tyson Fury, as Eddie Hearn, because of the arbitration case, because obviously they more in tune to what's going on with arbitration than Eddie Hearn is. So maybe that's the case. You never know, because maybe Bob and Frank Warren, they banking on the fact that if they win the case, they already have a fight lined up with AJ. But if they don't win the case, it is what it is. They fight Wilder if they have to, and AJ, he could go elsewhere. That's not their concern, because it's not their fighter, right? So it could possibly be that, But this is what Tyson Fury, obviously he came out and spoke on the arbitration case with Deontay Wilder. When he was asked, can the arbitration block the AJ fight, he responded with, no comment. This is why I pay lawyers millions of dollars for. Now, imagine paying millions of dollars for your lawyers to stop, to duck a fight you're going to make up to $50 million against the Deontay Wilder in a trilogy. Why are you paying all this money in the millions of dollars for lawyers, regardless of the damages that's going to come after if Deontay Wilder wins the case, when just to block a fight like a trilogy with Wilder where you can make $50 million? What's your take on that? Him revealing that he's paying millions of dollars just to deal with this arbitration case.
Sounds like you got something to hide. Why are you paying? What are you paying millions of dollars for if you innocent, if you're clean? you're a clean fighter, like you said, this for one, it shouldn't take as long as it is, and two, you shouldn't be worried about answering questions like that. What are you hiding behind the scenes? That's the thing about Tyson Fury, and frankly, it's not only Bob Arum and Frank Warren that don't look confident about this fight. It's also Tyson Fury, and like it's not even just Tyson Fury; it's the whole Fury. I heard his dad a few days ago was talking about this fight is not a good it's not a good idea to make during this time, and I'm like, now we're using the pandemic talk to explain why this fight can't happen. I thought this was about the venue. I thought why is it always changing? And why is it never on Eddie Hearn's side? It's always on Bob's side, Fury's side, Frank Warren's side. It's always that side. Why is that side always got issues? That's what people got to start asking themselves.
Yeah, I saw the interview with Fury. The father, he said he wasn't so optimistic about the fight coming to fruition, just like Fury did a couple weeks ago. But now Fury changed his mind, so we'll see today what comes to because they've been telling us today, next week, then in 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know which one is it. They keep pushing the goalposts further every single time. So we shall see.
Oh, they meant next week, Aki.
Yeah. It's gonna be because Eddie even said he want an extension to June. The June date is getting too close. It's like, man, you want a whole month extension? So it lets you know, it lets you know what they're dealing with. There's obviously a lot of obstacles, and mainly it's most likely the arbitration. But Fury also said that Wilder beats all the heavyweights. This is what he said on Behind the Gloves. He said Wilder knocks out AJ. And he said, I put money on it. I don't even gamble, but I will put money on it. Wilder is too awkward. He's fast and too explosive and just too hit. And he just hit too hard for AJ. He said, even if AJ beat me, he's not the number one best heavyweight fighter of this generation till he fights Wilder. So I'm like, man, you didn't made the glove gate situation even you put a real question mark behind that, because now it's like he kind of like co-signing the fact that he views Wilder as the biggest threat. He already said it on more than one occasion. Fury said Wilder is the biggest threat. He said he even a more threat in a trilogy than AJ is. This is why this is why Fury had to tamper with his gloves in order to fight Deontay Wilder, because Wilder have a cheat code. He hits you one time, you out of there. I always tell people, if you box, you're gonna get hit. Just like if you swim, you're gonna get wet. And Fury knew that. In the first fight, he got clapped one time and almost lost the fight. And in the rematch, that's why he elevated the cheating tactics from the left glove to the right glove being completely tampered with. So again, by Fury making them comments such as Wilder knocks out everybody in the heavyweight division, not named Tyson Fury, he letting you know how much of a threat Deontay Wilder is. So all these decafs that say Wilder don't have skills, Wilder don't have that, then how come the man that beat Wilder, Fury, believes Wilder will beat everybody that has no skill at all? It just further confirms that Fury tampered with his gloves to beat Deontay Wilder, because he doing everything it takes to get out of the trilogy. I mean, he paying millions to the lawyers. He could possibly pay millions of damages to Deontay Wilder, all to avoid the trilogy. When there's a rematch clause in place, he complaining about a layoff that he could have fought Deontay Wilder in the process and stayed active and made the $50 million in the process. But he wanted to fight Kabali, and Wilder blocked that with the mediation. But what's your take on Tyson Fury still believe till this day that the biggest threat is Deontay Wilder in the heavyweight division?
I mean, that's crazy to me, considering how Deontay Wilder is the biggest threat if you quote unquote got him out of there as easily as he did in that second fight. I mean, the way you did it, Deontay Wilder, you should have nothing. Like you still spouting out as if Deontay Wilder is the best. What is it? How is Deontay Wilder beat everybody there, And yet it's also a kind of a contradiction because Tyson Fury himself said before he ever fought Deontay Wilder, he's like, if I ever were to lose to this guy, I'd be a bum. Those words, more or less his words. Like, if I were to lose to someone with his skills or something like that, I'd be a real bum. That's what he said. So I'm like, how does he go from that to you basically implying that he has no skills to being he could knock out every fighter there is in the heavyweight division, including AJ. That doesn't sound right. Like, before you fight him, you say that. After your first fight, you keep that, but then after the second fight, you say something completely different. That's just that's a change of energy overnight.
Yeah, he also said, "I will never fight Deontay Wilder again." He told the mediator and the public, but all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, he said that he's willing to fight Wilder again for a trilogy. So it's like, it's like, again, he's just letting you know maybe arbitration is really kicking his ass. But with that being said, I forgot to mention this before I let you go. I have to ask you this question. Where do you put Jermell Charlo on the pound for pound list? Because we talk about Jermell, he faced some of the toughest, opponents at 154. Is a very deep division, a slept on division. A lot of divisions in boxing are what we call it, you can't play the triangle theory in boxing, because at the end of the day, boxing is the theory of the unexpected. And in the 154-pound division, I call it it's almost like a circular division. The belt's been recycled. I mean, going from J-Rock to Hurd, from Lara to this person. So what's your take on Jermell Charlo and where you place him in the pound for pound list? Because personally, I think he's number 3. But apparently a lot of pound for pound lists don't even rate Jermell Charlo. They don't even have him. And look, man, at the end of the day, let me say this. First of all, Inoue, one of my favorite fighters. Like, stylistically, he's so exciting, fast, got power, got charisma in the ring. But it's so ironic for old media to put him number 2 or number 3. And you can't name me an opponent he beat beside Donaire. And when I say Donaire, a washed up version of Donaire. Like an old version of Donaire who gave him a hell of a fight in a fight of the year. But they will say Inouye's pound for pound number 4 or number 2, and they won't even have Jermell on the list. They will have Lomachenko on the list, Gennady Golovkin on the list, who won't fight Charlo or Andre, or he won't fight nobody, but they got him on the list still. However, Jermell is not even on the list. Even Ring Magazine don't even have him on the list when he got a Ring Magazine belt. Where do you rate Jermell Charlo, and what's your thoughts on pretty much the disrespect that's taking place by old media not rating Jermell Charlo where he should be? And this is why boxing is not getting taken serious when majority of the pound for pound lists are not legit or credible.
I mean, I got Jermell Charlo ranked at number 6. To be completely honest, I have him ranked up there because at first I didn't even notice, but once he beat Rosario, I was just like, damn, this guy's got every single belt except the next one. He's about to fight Castaño. This guy really lives up to his word, and he's got the skills. He's got the skills of one of the best fighters in the world. He's proving it. I don't see how he should be ranked anywhere. Like, he should be where I put Josh Taylor. I got Josh Taylor at number 7. That's the way I got it. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I got a lot of respect for him. What'd you say?
Oh, I just want to say Josh Taylor. That's a bad man too. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, soon to be undisputed, most likely. Yeah. And I got a lot of respect for him because if you ask me, being a 3-division champion, 20 fights, and he's only 27, 28, that kid's talented. And I think he's right now in his prime. He's trying to become undisputed in his current division. He's about to more or less have all the accomplishments that Terence Bud Crawford has right now. And he's only 27, 28. You got to give him respect for that if he does end up doing it. Because unlike Lomachenko, this kid is beating everybody. He's not, and he wasn't ranked in number 1 after having 8 or 9 fights. He actually is earning his spot. Now you could say like, oh, he had a tough fight, but he was able to keep going with a broken orbital bone that he suffered in the second round and still come up on top. I gotta give the man props. People want to say Ryan Garcia had hustle getting beat. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
People want to say Ryan Garcia had props for getting dropped by Luke Campbell. Let's talk about Inoue fighting Nonito Donaire with a broken orbital bone. There's not a lot of fighters who got that in them. They could still come up on top like that. I don't know a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot.
The only thing I would say, Inoue, he definitely has heart and he got character. Like I said, style as well. But like I said, the only negative is that, like I said, Donaire is kind of like, I thought he was gonna wash Donaire, right? Because Donaire is a veteran, but at the end of the day, his best days are behind him. After he lost to Rigondeaux, he moved up to 126, got knocked out by Walters, moved down to 122, got beat up by, I forgot the guy's name, but
Frampton, I think.
Who?
Yes, well, Frampton, I think. I think he lost to Frampton as well, if I recall.
And then Frampton, that's a later loss, but he also lost someone else, like in a dominant fashion, where he lost. He looked like a shock version. So, like, it shocked me that he gave Inoue a hell of a fight, and I'm like, damn. Where did this come from? I'm thinking he was gonna like walk through him because see, Donaire is like the Sugar Shea Mosley version when Canelo fought him, and like that type of thing. Like that's how I viewed it when Inoue fought him. I was just thinking, let me see what he gonna do against the name. I looked at it as Devin Haney versus Gamboa type of thing, but then we saw a fight of the year. Like it's kind of like seeing Gamboa and Devin Haney have the fight of the year in a way. I'll be like, man, that's kind of like I didn't see that coming. And that's why I don't rate Inoue as high, because I feel like he has to do more. And he in a division where he's going to do, he got a lot of names at 122 now. The bantamweight division, there's the Fulton brother and the Beast. They both undefeated. It's like they have their own Fabulous Four over there in that division. So that's a tough division. If Inoue passes that, he definitely on the top 3 pound for pound. But until then, he got to show me something against somebody I know. And Donaire performance to me just wasn't it. But definitely, he's one of my favorite fighters for sure. Any last thoughts before I pick up other calls?
I would say this about Inoue. It's just that I would say that Donaire to Inoue was the same as Marquez to Pacquiao. Like, even though Marquez was 38, 39 years old, he was still Pacquiao's kryptonite every single time he fought, even at welterweight, which was a division that Marquez had no business being at, but he was still able to knock out Manny Pacquiao in that division. So it just proves to you, no matter how old you are, if you got the style for a fighter as skilled or as athletic as that, then you may just give them a lot of problems. And the only fighter to give as many problems to Pacquiao as Marquez was Mayweather. So I think with Inoue, that's the same thing with Donaire. I think that's just his kryptonite.
Yeah, but we truly don't know. Yeah, but we don't know if it's his kryptonite or not, because Pacquiao actually fought Marquez around, in his prime. But we don't know what would have happened if Donaire fought Inoue in his prime. Because remember, Donaire, that version at 115 and 118, like he was a killer, at his prime. Yeah, so a lot of people don't forget what kind of beast Donaire was before he went up against Rigondeaux, who was arguably one of the best Olympians ever, one of the best skillful fighters of all time. So I have to see more of Inoue for sure to see where he's rated.
I respect that.
Yeah, but nevertheless, he's one of my favorite fighters for sure. And great talking with you, my brother. We're gonna chop it up another day. Let me go ahead and pick up some more callers. All right.
All right, man. Can I just say one more thing, my brother?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. For all you, and I'm going to say this, for all you Devin Haney haters out there saying that Jorge Linares, you guys are already saying Linares is going to step up fight because he's washed and whatever. Just remember, Ryan Garcia wanted to face him before facing Luke Campbell. But I didn't hear you guys talking then. Just let that sink in.
Yeah, and Linares
that's all I want to say.
Luke. Yeah, Linares beat Luke too, and Luke, he was coming off a loss to Lomachenko before he fought Ryan. So, like, it's like lose with these decafs at the end of the day. You can't win for losing. So I mean, Linares is
Yep.
definitely a great fight for Devin Haney at this point in time. So, you know, we talk later. We gonna chop it up for sure though.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Take it
Peace,
easy.
man. Talk to you later, man. Ramadan Kareem to all my brothers and sisters out there. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from? Hello? Sean? Hello? Hold on, get it. Hey, Sean, if you are live, go ahead and unmute yourself. Sean Strange. Well, I don't know if my man went to sleep on the phone, but I'll get back with you. How you doing, Aki? Who this is and where you calling from?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yeah, you live.
Yeah, what's up, man? I'm just glad I got in, man. My name's Jose. Jose Zuniga, man, from Moreno Valley. I'm just want to talk boxing, man, you know? A little bit of boxing, you know? I had a question for you, you know? I mean, do you like Canelo as a boxer?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
You think, it's good, I mean, I like the realist and people talking, like boxing, though. I don't think Canelo's that good, for real.
Oh, you don't think
You
he's
know?
that good?
I don't think he's that good, for real. You know, like it's like I've been listening to YouTube to your channel, man, and it's just, you know, I like your channel, man. You know, I like the information you bring out and the respect that you give people, you know, and the time, you know. But talking Canelo, I don't think he's gotten the respect he deserves because he still hasn't shown what he has. You know, it's like against Mayweather. He said he was 20. You know, he was 23 years old. That's when he lost. He thought he was gonna beat Mayweather, but he got schooled. Mayweather laid the blueprint for everybody to see how to beat Canelo. Just move. You know, he took him to the middle of the ring. He pushed him against the ropes. He punked him. You know, I mean, he just gave him for round 6 to the 12th. Dog. He won the, and before that, you know, I mean, he won the fight. Dog. But it's a joke how one judge had it a draw. You know, and then against Triple G, both fights. The first one, Triple G won. The second one, I didn't mind the draw, but regardless, he didn't do enough. It could have been a draw, and I would have been fine, you know. Because I don't know why people say that Canelo was pushing Triple G back. It was a same fight. They fought the same fight. You know, give me 2, I'm gonna give you 2. Just stand in the middle. Nobody punked each other, you know. But just Canelo, like I'm saying, I wish he could. I mean, like you said, it's Benavidez, you know. He vacated his belt. I mean, he lost his belt because he couldn't make weight. Canelo got it for free after he fought, one of the fights. It's just, I mean, you tell me, boss, you know. But I'm just happy, man. I got in and be able to talk to you a little bit.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're right. I mean, in my humble opinion, David Benavidez, he the truth because David Benavidez, he don't mind to mix it up with nobody. I mean, he willing to take on anybody, and that's the true definition of a champion. Win or lose is you wanting to fight the best. I mean, like I said, I like Canelo, but I just want to see Canelo fight the best to see how really good he is. But I can't tell how good Canelo is fighting an Ivini Yildirim, a guy coming off a loss and 2-year layoff, like that type of opponent.
Man.
Yeah, I can't even like rate him. I can't even like tell how good Canelo is fighting a guy like that, right? Now, so what's your take on a lot of people? I mean, you hear a lot of Canelo fans, obviously. They say Canelo is the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. And, you know, that's a big statement when you say the greatest Mexican because you saying he better than Chavez Sr. And we know Chavez Sr., all the legendary fighters he fought. Barrera, you know, all the fighters he fought in his prime. Like Barrera fought everybody. Morales, Salvador Sanchez. I mean, so just that comment, though, what's your take on the people that say, are you Hispanic?
Yes, my parents are born, they're from Mexico. My lady's parents, as a matter of fact, they're from Mexico, but from Jalisco, Guadalajara, where Canelo's from, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that comment? What's your take on that comment? Canelo is the greatest Mexican of all time.
You got it. Let me answer you. I got it. Let me see. Look, I like that question you asked me, man, and I'm gonna gladly try to explain. I mean, answer. You know, my lady's family's from Jalisco, from Guadalajara. All right, so that's where Canelo's from, right? So them being Mexican and me always watching the fight and inviting my family, my lady's family, they're from Jalisco. They don't think he's good, man. You know, and it's funny. You know, only probably like two cousins of my lady, same thing. They're from Jalisco. They're fanatics, but they're. It's like I told them, hey, you like him because you think he's cute or what? I mean, I don't see that. I don't see nothing special, but there's a lot of, you know, it's probably mixed, but there's more people that don't like Canelo, man. For real, the real, and like I tell everybody, the real boxing fans though. But you know, the fanatics, this and that, all, and then because he's Mexican, nah, because it don't matter what race you are, and I'm not racist at all. I just, if you're any color, if you're good, I'm gonna give you credit because it's just, it's the best sport, you know. But it's just, I mean, yeah. So to answer you, you know, the best way I could, you know, a lot of Mexican people, I think it's divided, but the real boxing fans know that Canelo, he still needs to do, you know, more, you know, he has to do way more, you know, for real. But he is the face of boxing. He is, and he's Mexican with red hair, you know. The WBC defends them, man, protects them, you know. It's like, come on, man, let him fight already. Let him fight. His best fight for his whole career, to me, were against Triple G, both fights. Because they were just two aggressive fights that the first one he lost, and the second one, I didn't mind the draw, but regardless, hey, by 2 points, hey, fuck it. He took, Triple G should have taken it again, you know. I mean, should have taken it, you know, both fights. But it is, they did Triple G wrong, but Canelo's the face of boxing. But there is people that are biased, you know, because he's Mexican, so yeah, I'm gonna go for them, you know. So I don't know. I love watching boxing, man. I'm just happy I'm talking to you, man.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Yeah, for sure. Now, so you don't, so you just to
Ask me
make
a
it
question,
clear,
man. I'll try to answer
just to
quick, you
make
know.
it clear, you don't think he's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, right?
I don't know, no, I'm sorry. To me, he's not even close. Not even top 10, huh? You know, not even top 10, buddy. You know, for real. Not even top 10.
Wow. So
You know, there's too many, you know.
yeah, who do you have as the greatest Mexican? Is it Chavez? Is it
Right
Saul
now, I'm gonna have to say
Sanchez,
Chavez.
Barrera?
I'm gonna say Chavez. They're number one. Chavez number one, but there's so many greats.
Right,
So
right.
many greats. You got the Morales. You got, you know, Barrera. You got Juan Manuel Marquez. You got Finito Lopez. You got Chiquita Gonzalez. You know, I can't go. It's like I'm saying, I can't relate to. I'm 38 years old. You know, from 82. I can't relate to the old school. I'll see footage. I'll see, you know, but I could. I mean, growing up, that's those fights I used to watch. You know, because my dad used to be, you know, a big ass boxing fan. You know, which he passed away already, but yeah, he was a boxing fan, and he was a kind of, hey, serious shit. I'm gonna tell you this one. Uh, he used to like Canelo, but then he just started losing, you know, like faith in him, you know,
Yeah.
serious shit. But yeah, and he's Mexican too,
That's
man.
that's funny you say
Yeah,
that.
but
Now, okay, well, I do want to get your take on because obviously you watch boxing a whole lot and you sound like a hardcore boxing fan. What's your take on
thank you.
yeah, Ryan Garcia? He came on and said that I can't wait for the Javier Fortuna fight. I will destroy you if I have to. That's Garcia speaking on the July fight with Fortuna. What's your take on that?
Yeah,
Because he was calling out Tank. And Andre Ward said, he came out and said, listen, you can't call out Tank the way you did with with the aggression you had and then back away to fight somebody else. You have to fight Tank. You can't get a pass for that.
yeah.
What's your take on that?
Ryan Garcia, man. Uh, Let me see. Ryan Garcia, I like the way he trains. He trains bad. He has, you know, he's dedicated. But that mouth, you know, he's talking too much reckless. You know, he's not thinking, and he's making it seem like he's already in his prime. You know, he's barely starting. You know, he's barely starting it. It's like his mandatory. His mandatory is Devin Haney. Eddie Hearn offered him the fight. You know, he said nope. He ain't nobody. He's this. You know, he hasn't fought against nobody. It's like you make that fight, Ryan. That fight's gonna set that fight right there is gonna be a badass fight, like a Travante Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz, and like Eddie Hearn. We'll do it in L.A. Staples Center. When I heard Eddie Hearn say that, I'm like, man, I got happy, you know. But he's scared to fight him because he knows he's a dangerous fighter, you know. All those guys, Teofimo Lopez, you know, Ryan Garcia. I mean, Ryan Garcia, I think he's the weakest from all of them, you know.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, I think he's the weakest from all of them, but he just has to relax and don't copy Canelo's style, man. You know, just keep fucking like he has the biggest platform because social media and all that, you know, and he has followers, you know. Even though they're guys, girls, or whatever, he has the followers, but he has to just be a little bit more professional, you know, a little bit more professional. That's my opinion, you know, because like I'm saying, he has the structure, but don't copy Canelo, man. Like you have so many good fights, you're gonna be able to fight all those guys. And like he said, we went through a pandemic. This is the first year of 2021, 3-4 months to the year. Come on, man, you make that fight right now, Ryan Garcia. Hey, it'll sell, man, for real. And plus, they're gonna allow fans now. They're saying, I mean, it'll be a good fight, but I think he's scared to fight him. Against Javier Fortuna, I give him respect, but he's already on his way out, you know? He's already going out, man. That's it, you know? It's just like Ryan Garcia's going to win, plain and simple, you know? For real. There's no way he's going to lose that fight.
Yeah.
No way, you know?
Yeah, it's a good
but
fight.
it's just those fights that he's going to get another fight just to add it to the resume, you know?
Right.
For real. Like,
it's a good fight.
And I'm telling the truth. I don't like talking. Yeah, sorry, boss.
No, you're right. You're telling the truth for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we want to hear. You know, the truth.
Hell yeah, shit.
Yeah. So I mean,
at
the end of the day, it's one thing if Ryan is gonna fight Fortuna, it's like okay, we give you a pass, but are you really gonna fight Devin Haney next? Because what's the purpose of you eliminating all these eliminators with Luke and then Fortuna and then become the number one mandatory again just to not fight Devin Haney? You know what I mean? Like, what's the purpose of you fighting Fortuna then? Just like Eddie Hearn said, as long as you fight Devin Haney next, we give you a pass. But if you don't fight Devin Haney or Tank after this trolling, like I said, that mouthpiece is not looking too good because, you know, being the champion on Instagram is not like being the champion of the world. At the end of the day, I don't know. I think Virgil Ortiz is the last one that's cut different. David Benavidez. Like that's my man right there. I can't, you know, at the end of the day, I think these are the Barrero Morales of our time. I think, you know, Oscar De La Hoya, Barrero Morales, like I said, Chavez. These guys fought everybody. They didn't care.
Everybody.
They didn't care if they're going to win or lose or protect their record. They fought everybody. And Ryan, he's following that Canelo Alvarez blueprint. And this is why it's backfiring on him because Canelo doesn't trash talk at least. Ryan has a big mouthpiece and he doesn't want to back it up. He want to hide behind Oscar De La Hoya. And Oscar said, I promote like I fight. He said, I promote like I fight. I'm going to put you in there with the best. That's why he liked Virgil the most because Virgil, he want to fight the best, win or lose. Ryan, not so. Ryan want to look pretty and all, but you know, if you want Ali look pretty and he still fought the best, you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I think Ryan just making himself look bad, and I 100% I agree with Andre Ward. You can't talk all that trash and back up. You can't be in the same class as another student and say I'm gonna beat your ass right after school, and when you go to behind the school, you be like, nah, I'll fight you next year, or when I go to college, we could fight then. That's not how it works. If you talk trash, you got to back it up. And Ryan had Mike doing cha-cha and all that, and Mike was over the moon for that fight. All for Ryan to pull back and backtrack on all of his promises he gave to the fans of Mike Tyson, you know.
That's true.
Yes, sir. But you know what?
Ask me another question, boss. Let me try to answer it. You know, let me try to be a little bit and tell the truth. You know, because there's a lot of fanatics, but a lot of people, like I'm saying, we got eyes. You know, it's just when you watch a fight, just put me on the TV better. You know, because the commentators, certain ones are good, certain ones are not. But ask me one more question, please. You know.
Yeah. Well, Let me
Anything. Yeah, you want? Let me see.
let me who wins the Fabulous Four at lightweight? Ryan, Teofimo, Tank, or Devin Haney? Who wins that? If they do all fight each other, who would you favor to win?
That's a good question right there. That is a good question. I'm gonna have to go, man. I'm gonna have to go with I think it's gonna be between three, man. If I could answer that, I think it's gonna be between Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Tank Davis. Between them three, I don't know. It's gonna be a flip,
that's 30 people, man. You
Cool.
gotta give me one. Who's
Just
the
one? All right. You know what?
Who's the
one.
one? Who's
I'm gonna have to
come
go
out
with
top?
I'm gonna have to go with Teofimo Lopez.
Okay.
Teofimo, because he, I like the way. I mean, him too. He started talking a little bit extra, but he's focused. He's gonna fight. But I'll pick Teofimo Lopez.
Right. Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
So my studio just messed up. But yes, sir. And last question, Errol Spence versus Crawford, who you got winning in that fight?
Which one?
Errol Spence and Terence Crawford.
Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford? Hello?
Yeah. Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go with Terence Crawford, eh? And I think, for real, I'll tell you this. Terence Crawford. And I think Terence Crawford would have beaten Floyd Mayweather. But Mayweather was scared to fight him, man. For real. Terence Crawford's bad, eh? Terence Crawford, he'll beat Errol Spence, and I think he would have beaten Floyd Mayweather, eh? For real. It would have been a good fight, but he decided to fight Andre Berto, his last fight.
Yeah, but Crawford wasn't, he wasn't in the same division as Floyd when Floyd retired. Crawford,
no, he was at 140. He was at 140. He could have got, they could have met right there,
Yeah, but that's not the same division though, because Crawford was he just moved to 140 at the time, and Floyd he was at 147 and pretty much retired in that fight in Berto. But so they weren't even in the same division.
Nothing. I can't take nothing away from Mayweather. Mayweather did everything. He changed the game. How these bouncers right now get paid, dog. That's another thing. He changed the game, dog. Getting these millions, just fucking getting paid $2-3 million. To fight twice a year, though, it's like they got to put more dedication, Like, people, the real boxing fans want to see the fight, thing, and the fight can happen. I'm going to tell you another one. 2.5 years ago, I thought boxing was going to, die out, and then everybody just started coming out. All these, the new generation. And they can fight each other, And it's not the promoters. The promoters can talk like grown men, sit down, and make the fight happen. Enough with the bullshit,
Right.
Enough with the bullshit with the promoters, with this and that. And I'm not talking. I'm just saying, like, as a boxing fanatic, a diehard boxing fanatic.
Yeah, promoters are at the end of the day. Promoters are there to make the fights happen. If the fighters want to fight each other, the promoters are willing to work with each other. But if a fighter tells his promoter, "I don't want the fight," then of course the promoters are gonna stop the fight from happening. But if the fighters want to fight each other, the fights can happen. It's always up to the fighters. It's not up to the promoters. Like Eddie says, the fighters are the bosses. The promoters work for the fighters. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, my camera just died on me. So I'm going to go ahead and end the show. I appreciate talking with you, my brother. Make sure you call in another time. I think this is your first time calling in. Have a pleasure talking with you.
First time, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. And let me just say one more thing, please.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And I'll be out the way. Canelo, start fighting everybody, please. Start fighting Benavidez, the Charlos, Demetrius Andrade. He's in the zone, easy to make. Stop running around, please. Fight people, fight the top fucking guys already, please. But have a good night, and I appreciate it.
Oh man,
appreciate it, boss.
I hope Canelo listen to you, man.
Serious shit. Nah, thank you, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you. Yes, so with that being said, I appreciate for everybody that's tuning in this late. We having the late edition tonight. With that being said, subscribe below, click on the notification bell, and to be continued on the next episode of AKHi TV. Peace, and we out you.